Right now, tropics wise, we are at Tropical Storm Ferdinand. That's going to remain a fish storm. Eastern Pacific also does feature definitely some disturbances, and also Tropical Storm Juliet, which will also remain a fish storm. But if you are unaware, this is the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. So obviously, we know this as a huge, huge, huge storm. I just finished a documentary done by National Geographic. I highly recommend it. I'll show you what it is. National Geographic Hurricane Katrina, Inside Hurricane Katrina. It's 5 episodes. It's in the Race Against Time series. This was an incredible documentary. Growing up during this time, I remember Hurricane Katrina. I remember how bad it was. But then, like, you just kind of forgot about it. I moved on with my life. But the devastation that followed the hurricane, the flooding, the levees breaking, the overall humanitarian lack of humanitarian effort is something I was not aware of. Being only at that point, 2005, I was only 19 years old. So I was in college. I just started college at that point. So this is an incredible series. Um, Another one that's really good is the tsunami one, Race Against Time, and also A Day in the Life. There's a 9/11 one that had me in tears. I watched it last year. It was very hard to watch, but it was really well done. So I recommend it highly. The reason I bring that up is because we are getting to the point. So on August 23rd, the National Hurricane Center identifies a section 300 miles off of Florida as like a disturbance. So nothing's going on just yet. You can see it right here, right there. I really like this from the Times. It's a really good timeline of what happened and the bullet points on who it impacted. So now we're getting to August 24th. Now we're talking Katrina at this point turns into a tropical system named Katrina. And it was in the Caribbean and it starts pulling into the Florida area. And then it was going to go into the Gulf. But watch what happens. It takes a hard, hard left turn, a western turn. Now we're getting to August 24th. Now it's going to go from hurricane status back to a tropical storm. And then it starts taking a curve. And the expectation was the 25th, it was going to hit as a hurricane into the panhandle. That was the expectation here. I'm going to actually make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it a lot better. There we go. But then watch what happens here. We get to the 26th. Oops, I did it again. I did the loop thing. So we get to the 26th. It's expected to hit the panhandle. Now let's go forward more. Okay, now it's moving over to Mississippi. Now it's Louisiana. Now it's right here. This is the latest right there that it was at 5 a.m. Saturday, the 27th. So we are getting close to this 20-year anniversary. 5 a.m., big hurricane. At that point, it was right around here in the trajectory. This thing becomes a major hurricane. This is where we're at. Saturday, August 27th, Katrina shifts north, almost doubles in size, and it is now in the enormous bathwaters of the Gulf of Mexico. Quite frankly, this is the scariest time because this thing just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And people were getting evacuation warnings at this point. Now we have a Cat 5. This is when the buzzsaw effect took full action. I mean, it just is like churning in the Gulf of Mexico. So Sunday, August 28th is when it turned into a Category 5. I'm getting literal goosebumps just thinking about this, knowing what happened afterwards. But you can see as it goes into the Gulf, then the latest trajectories take it right over New Orleans. Again, New Orleans being under sea level, having man-made levees, it's just not a good situation. Katrina obviously was a bad hurricane. It did make landfall as a Category 3, but it was an engineering failure and a humanitarian failure. And that's what makes it really tough to know because it had unfortunately it had to happen for there to be improvements. I don't know if there are better improvements to what happened, but by about Sunday morning at 7 a.m., this thing was so nasty. The 28th, we got to a 10 a.m. update. I mean, we're talking a huge loss of life. Just the way it moved, the upper right quadrant of a hurricane is the worst part. It actually gives you the worst storm surge and it gives you tornadoes. So if I were to take this, if this right here is Katrina, there it is, break it into fourths. It is the upper right quadrant, this part right here. That is the worst part of a hurricane. because it has all your storm surge, it has everything. So all of this water is funneling into these areas that are so prone to flooding because of the levees. You have a lack of natural wetlands due to climate change because they keep getting flooded out as sea levels rise. So you literally had the perfect storm of this scenario. On the 29th, it hit as a Cat 3. It actually hit in areas um, in southern Mississippi as well. I lived in Mississippi for a couple of years, and even 4 years after this hurricane is when I moved there, and there was still devastation all along Biloxi and I-90 there. So it was, yeah, and then it turned into a tropical storm and moved on out. So I bring that up because we're getting to that 20th anniversary, and you can see the trajectory here with those winds. And here's Lake Pontchartrain. You have the Mississippi River as well, bordering New Orleans, and these are the levees, and the levees are man-made. They're entirely not tall enough to incorporate for sea level rise and also not for storm surge. This only goes up to 20 feet. The peak storm surge during Katrina was 28 feet. So these levees were overtopped. Plus, Lake Pontchartrain was also broken and people did evacuate. And this is what I'm talking about right here. You'll see the buzzsaw effect in full swing right there, buzzsaw. And then it went right over Louisiana. And I mean, here's a look at the flooding. Levees broke and then it flooded, specifically the lower ninth ward, the seventh ward, the eighth ward, and it just continued to spread. It never did flood the Superdome, but I mean, people were on their roofs trying to find. I mean, you can see the breaks right here, and once that breaks, you're gonna have just flooding, complete devastation. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit with you guys. If you remember anything from that time, a lot of people do want to blame FEMA. I know from my experience as when I got my master's in emergency management, that's a tough time because FEMA at the time was reorganized to become a part of Homeland Security. This was post 9/11. If 9/11 didn't happen, the response to Hurricane Katrina would have likely have been better. But because a lot of the resources were pulled out of FEMA to help with 9/11 resources, think of TSA and all the extra screenings so that we didn't have another 9/11, then you had a Katrina. So it is a very tough storm to talk about because clearly there was a huge communication failure. People were set aside, people were not seen, they weren't heard, and it was just a very scary time. But what is tough is that I know there will be another Katrina. I know that with every fiber of my being. The storms are getting more intense. We're getting more rainfall. We're getting minor sea level rise at this point, but with every degree that we go up in CO2 and temperatures, we will see larger hurricanes. We will see these hurricanes become more severe. Um, More storm surge could break more levees. So I feel like New Orleans is unfortunately a sitting duck. Hopefully we've learned from this from 2005, but um yeah, it's a tough one to talk about. So I just wanted to hop on here and just have a little conversation about what you remember from that day. Yeah, I think it's worth watching the documentaries just so you can kind of take yourself back and maybe think about what you would have done during that time. And also to take climate change seriously because I do worry for cities like this as well. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I know this was a longer forecast, but I just wanted to highlight just a little bit about Hurricane Katrina, some of the destruction, the devastation, the impacts, what led to it. There's a lot of stuff that led to this, but I think it's worth taking a look back and seeing how we can get better at it. So thank you guys as always for watching, and I will see you next time.